Educate, inform and entertain. The three pillars the news and media industry is built on. But often, the issue of the language of delivery is a stumbling block in the way of fulfilling that mandate. In a rural province like the Eastern Cape, where many do not have an education, accessing news in their mother tongue is crucial.
Ngoba mandulo phaya urhulumente wangaphambili bekusetyenziswa ulwimi lwesiBhulu. Ngoku sizithetha ulwimi lethu emveni ko-1994 nobana ngaba ke zikhona ezinye channels but thina siyabulela ku-SABC kweendaba zakhe asiphathela zona zesiXhosa.
Nongakhanga aye esikoleni ongakhanga afikelele ekuphumeleleni esikoleni uyasiva isiXhosa. Xa izeze English indaba ufuneka uthekelele uba inobe ithi kube ungaqinisekanga uba ithini.
Kube emaphandleni kukho abantu abangootata abadala abangakwazi ufunda isiNgesi, abangakwazi unothetha isiNgesi. Xa kubhalwe emaphepheni ngesiXhosa uyakwazi utata uba ayifunde into ethethwayo phaa ayive.
The demand for Xhosa news in indigenous languages is increasing. A local Xhosa newspaper, IsiXhosa, is in high demand, especially in the rural areas.
Eastern Cape's roads are very bad. Let's start there. I think that affects tourism. It also affects print media. Distribution and circulation. To get to those places is difficult. It's also expensive.
Radio remains the biggest conduit for delivering content in indigenous languages. The Xhosa radio station, Umhlobo Wenene, has more than 5.5 million listeners. Television is also making inroads, reaching further because of digitization.
Sometimes the content and context can be misinterpreted if it is not conveyed in the mother tongue, and with the help of the language board PenSALB, we are able to develop the language. It does not only develop the listeners, it develops us as news readers as well.
The next frontier is the digital space. News providers are already investing heavily in this area as people access news on demand and on the move, and increasingly in their mother tongue. Busisiwe Jemsana-Mantashe, SABC News, Eastern Cape.
And we're going to cross live now to Busisiwe Jemsana-Mantashe, who is at Rhodes University at the School of Journalism, and Rhodes, of course, in Makhanda. Busisiwe, good morning and happy, is it happy? Do we say happy Black Wednesday? I'm not sure. But anyway, Busisiwe will bring us up to speed there. And she, of course, has a guest from the School of Journalism.
I'm also not sure, Sakina. Is it happy? Are we happy 42 years down the line, or we still face a new kind of censorship? Well, I'll be joined by Prof. Harry Darkmore to talk to us about that 42 years down the line, we talk of the police brutality then, but now the media faces a different kind of censorship, political interference, the captured media, journalists being retrenched on and on and on. But to talk to us more about this, Sakina, I'm joined by the Prof himself, who's the acting deputy head of the School of Journalism. Prof, political interference, captured media, commercialized media houses, journalists getting retrenched. Is the media free from censorship 42 years down the line? What type of censorship are we facing now as the media?
So much of the censorship these days is economic. There's just, as you pointed out, so much pressure on the fundamental business model of the media. The thing that we've relied on for 100 years to fund journalism are all creaking and in many cases breaking down, most particularly advertising. So while we've improved so much 42 years down the line, and there just isn't quite the same kind of pressure coming from the government and the state, there is still some pressure coming from the government and the state. And I think we have to say this week to the government, to political parties, the government in particular, the police in particular, let journalists do their work. Stop confiscating cameras, stop getting in the way, especially of photojournalists and cameras. That's very, very important. Let the state security agencies stop spying on journalists. Those kind of things are terribly reminiscent of 1977, that kind of repression. But thankfully that's a smaller part of the challenge. The bigger part of the challenge, as you point out, I think now, is very much around our lack of diversity in our media, is in terms of the commercial model, is in terms of allowing journalists to kind of do their job without factions interfering, and some political parties whose rhetoric have been amped up against journalists as they've been exposed as being part of corrupt enterprises and networks. You're getting a lot of very unacceptable kind of, we won't talk to journalists, or journalists are not invited to our rallies or our meetings. That needs to stop, and that needs to be taken very seriously, because that does put journalists in harm's way, just the way they were in the 70s.
And to another point, when you talk about the media being, it has evolved. Now we're talking about digitization. Right. We're talking about fast news, people accessing news on the move. On the other side, it's a good thing that people are able to access news at the comfort of their phones, on their smartphones. But there's also fake news. There's also the like and share. What is that doing to the credibility of journalism?
I think it's the biggest existential issue that we face, other than the economic one, is that people are snacking and hunting and pecking around for news and taking it in very small bites. So that's all the more important for us to have credible news organizations that work hard on their ethics, that are transparent, that, as many South African journalists do, admit their mistakes quickly and fully. We all human, we make mistakes. The idea is to come out and say that is an error of fact. When it's not an error of fact, there are very strong mechanisms with the Ombuds system for people to complain and to get relief and to get restitution and to get a proper apology. And people use that system, the Press Ombud, really well. But in terms of social media, people have got to be more discerning. Who has made this particular statement? Fact check it. It really does. Just don't take it because your friend has liked it on social media and has passed it on to you. So we are training our journalists. They have to interact, all of us, with social media the whole time. We have to be much more in tune with our audiences, but it's so important that people develop, and we have some kind of media literacy in our schools to help people understand that just because it's out there doesn't mean that it's true. You have to be your own fact checker.
And because of time, Prof, you touched on diversity. We are supposed to be the voice of the voiceless, getting things done. How do journalists make sure that there is diversity when the people who own these media houses, they need to bow to their pressure because they are working for media houses?
Yes, so I do think the media houses, the media owners, and particularly the public broadcaster, we have to invest so much more in journalism. So we're looking for innovative solutions to the SABC's financial dilemmas, to people not paying their TV license fee, which they need to do. We need to all contribute more to media. And then the owners need to allow the journalists to do the stories that count. So in small towns, small cities like Makhanda, you need to know what the council's doing. You need to know what's happening in the courts. So that kind of reporting. And I think we must make the point that we need much more language diversity. We need to train journalists who can work comfortably in different languages. And we've got to get the language diversity so people can get the news in their own language.
Prof, thank you so much for your time. Because of time, we're going to have to leave it there. Well, diversity, language diversity in media houses. And certainly, Sakina, we're not sure if it's a happy Black Wednesday. Are we getting there? Are we moving back? Well, it all depends on the news that we do deliver. But what we know is that we're supposed to report on the truth, nothing but the truth. But threats continue to be in the way of good journalism. Sakina, back to you.
Well, thank you so much, our reporter Busisiwe Jemsana-Mantashe there, and raising very pertinent questions, also a good reflection on where we are at, the state of journalism. That's come into question more and more, especially of late. But of course, you can also engage us if you have some thoughts on those, and get in touch with us at Morning Live SABC. All right, it's time now for some